Hi, welcome back. In this lecture, we will go through the selected financial data and free cash flows from Amazon's 10K filing. First, we have a table here of the selected consolidated financial data. The first thing we'll notice here is net sales. As we've discussed in the earlier sections and lectures, we now understand that Amazon has had significant growth in its net sales amount in just the last 5 years. Specifically, Amazon has gone from $107 billion in net sales in fiscal 2015 up to $280.5 billion in fiscal 2019. The next item to highlight is the significant growth in basic and diluted earnings per share. For instance, Amazon went from $1.25 in Welcome back. In this lecture, we will go through the net sales by segment from Amazon's 10K filing. Here, we can see that Amazon has seen sales growth across all segments. This includes its North American, International, and the AWS segments. Amazon is experiencing healthy growth across all these segments, which translates to a 20% increase between 2018 and 2019. Next, we have the year-over-year growth comparison table. On a percentage basis, we can see that Amazon has seen significant growth in its Amazon Web Services, or AWS segment for short. This segment grew 47% in 2018 and 37% in 2019. The key takeaway here is that this again highlights Amazon's strength and diversification. For example, the AWS segment, or Amazon Web Services, is cloud storage, and this is a segment that Walmart does not even compete in. Next, we can see Amazon's sales mix by segment. Sales in North America continue to make up a large portion of Amazon's revenues at 61%. International sales comprise 27% of Amazon's sales, and we have the AWS segment, which makes up 12% of the company's revenues. On this slide, we can see Amazon's net sales broken out by its products and service types. Here, we can see that approximately half of Amazon's net sales are from its online stores. We can also see that Amazon has seen growth in its physical stores. Also, we can see that its subscription services, all commonly known as Amazon Prime, has doubled over the last 3 years alone. What is more interesting to me, however, on this slide is the AWS line item. We can see that the Amazon Web Services segment only accounts for $35 billion of the $280 billion of net sales. However, as we discussed in the earlier slide, we now know that this segment has high margins and contributes to more than half of Amazon's total operating income. On this table, we can see Amazon's net sales by country. The first item I notice is that a large portion of Amazon's sales are generated from the United States. As a percentage, Amazon had almost 70% of its sales coming from the United States alone. The other items we can observe on this slide is that over the last 3 years, Amazon has seen growth across all regions. Mind you, the amount of growth varies by region, but it is a good sign that Amazon is seeing growth across all these countries. Now, this section of the table I have included breaks down the operating expenses in detail. We can see that the largest components includes Amazon's cost of sales, fulfillment costs, along with costs associated with technology and content. In this section of the table, we can see the year-over-year growth as a percentage. For the most part, this percentage change would be driven by the revenue side of the business, since costs typically follow the revenue patterns. A more important part of this table includes the operating expenses as a percentage of net sales. We can see that cost of sales has actually decreased from 59.8% to 59%. This is good since it indicates that Amazon's margins would be improving from a lower cost of sales amount. On a similar vein, we can see that fulfillment costs have also lowered from 14.6% to 14.3%. This is also another good indicator since it indicates Amazon is continuing to gain efficiencies within its cost structure. Here, we can see the profitability by segment. This table takes the net sales and deducts the operating expenses associated with each business segment. First, we can see that Amazon for North America generated $7 billion of net operating income. This accounts for almost half of the consolidated income for Amazon. Next, we can see the results from the international operations of Amazon. In contrast to North America, we can see that the international segment is actually generating losses over the last 3 years for Amazon. So overall, the company has not been profitable in its international segment as of yet. For this section of the table, we can see that Amazon has generated $9.2 billion of operating income from its AWS business line. This equates to more than half of all of Amazon's operating income. A key point is that most people would think Amazon makes all of its income from selling goods from its website, for example, the retailing business. However, we can clearly see that Amazon is not just a standard retailer. It earns and generates a large portion of its income from its cloud services, that is, from its Amazon Web Services division. More importantly, we can also observe that Amazon's margin for the retailing business is slim, whereas it has a healthy gross margin for its AWS segment. Hi, in this lecture, we will go through the selected financial data and free cash flows from Walmart's 10K filing. Here, I have included an extract from item 6, selected financial data from Walmart's 10K filing. This provides us a 5-year financial summary of key line items for the company. And starting with the year-over-year net sales trends, we can see that Walmart has actually fluctuated in terms of its percentage change in net sales year over year. It has gone from negative growth of around 0.7%, and in some years, it has had growth in net sales as a percentage of around 2.9 and 3%, so in line with inflation. The next item we see here is the gross profit margin. And here we can see stable margins, although it does fluctuate in certain years. And one item to note here is we can see back in 2016, Walmart actually had 24.6% of gross profit margin, whereas in 2020, it has gone down to 24.1%. Again, it's still above 24%, but directionally, we would typically want a company's gross profit margin to be increasing or at least being stable over time and not declining. The next item we have here is the net income trend. And for the most part, you can see the fluctuations year over year. For example, we started in 2016 with $14.7 billion, but in 2019, it went down to $6.7 billion and then back up in 2020 up to $14.9 billion. And then when you look at it on a 5-year basis, you're effectively sitting at around $14.7, $14.8 billion of net income. Now, this table was taken from Walmart's 10K filing and provides some other key metrics over the last 3 years. First, we can see that Walmart's net sales have increased from 1.9% to 3% over the last few years. Again, this is good since we're seeing increases along with inflation, but unlike Amazon, Walmart is not seeing substantial revenue growth over the last few years. Next, we can see Walmart's gross profit rate, which is around 24%. Again, this is a healthy margin for a retailer. However, one key item to observe is that we can actually see the gross profit rate decreasing over the last few years, as mentioned in our earlier slides as well. So for example, Walmart's gross margin was 24.7% in 2018, and then it went down to 24.1% in a matter of 2 years in 2020. The last item I want to highlight on this slide is the operating income as a percentage of net sales. Overall, we can see that Walmart's operating income is stable at around 4% of net sales. Now on this slide, we can see Walmart's free cash flows over the last 3 years. A key trend we can observe is that Walmart's free cash flows are decreasing over the last few years. For example, Walmart's free cash flows went down from 18.3 billion in 2018 to 14.5 billion in 2020. In other words, that's more than a 20% decline in free cash flows for the company. Next, we can see Walmart's free cash flows from investing and financing activities. A key highlight here is that there was a large amount of cash used in 2019 for investing activities of $24 billion. When I went back to their cash flow statements on their financial statements, I can see that $14.6 billion of this was related to a business acquisition back in fiscal 2019. The other observation we have on this slide is Walmart's net cash used in financing activities. Again, we can see that this fluctuates year over year. However, the main driver for this is Walmart's net change in short-term borrowings over the last several years. Hi, welcome back everyone. In this lecture, we will go through the net sales by segment from Walmart's 10K filing. First, on this table, we can see Walmart's US sales by category. A key highlight on this table is $190.5 billion of US sales are generated from Walmart's groceries division. This translates to more than 55% of total US sales for Walmart, and they have been successful with this division. The other item I want to highlight is that on this table, it includes the sales from Walmart's e-commerce business. Reading through the 10K report, we can see that approximately $21.5 billion of sales from the US was generated through its e-commerce side. Now on this table, we can see Walmart's net sales for its international market. Walmart seems to have a good presence in several markets, including the UK and Canada. However, it is noteworthy to see that Walmart's presence in China is actually quite small, at only $10.7 billion. In other words, this translates to less than 10% of Walmart's sales in its international market. On this part of the table, we can see the breakdown of Walmart sales from its Sam's Club. Overall, more than half of these sales are generated again from its groceries and consumables category. Now this provides us a breakdown by segment. A key observation on this table is that a significant amount of Walmart's sales and operating income are derived from the United States. As an example, out of the $20.6 billion of operating income, $17.4 billion is generated from the US. Another interesting observation I found on this table is that Walmart has almost the same total assets value for Walmart US and Walmart International. However, as we mentioned earlier, we now know that most of the sales and income is still generated from the US market. And in the table below, this is the same information provided for Walmart, but it is for fiscal 2019. Overall, the trends are similar year over year, and there hasn't been much of a change between 2019 and 2020 operations. Congratulations on reaching the end of this course. I'm proud of you for reaching the end of this program, and I wanted to take a few minutes to recap all of the things we have learned together during this journey. At the beginning of this course, I mentioned that we would be able to answer the following questions above. First, which company has experienced more growth over the last 5 years? After our financial analysis, it is clear that Amazon has had much more stellar growth over the last 5 years as compared to Walmart. Second, which company has the stronger financial metrics and financial ratios? Again, after our financial analysis that we completed earlier, we can see that Amazon had the stronger financial ratios based on their most recent annual filings. And last, which segments are driving the growth for these two companies? We now know that a large portion of Walmart's revenues are derived from their grocery segment. In contrast, for Amazon, we clearly saw that a large portion of their net income is from their Amazon Web Services, or AWS segment, which contributed to more than half of their operating income and net income during the year. These insights are a good reflection of the power of knowledge and having the ability and skill set to analyze financial information. Again, I truly hope you enjoyed this course, and I wish you the best of luck on your journey of being a lifelong learner. Congratulations, and all the best.